Print advertising layouts. A layout is a structured arrangement of design elements. The purpose is to communicate your message and your concept, get it on paper, and be aesthetically pleasing. There are two key terms for layouts. The first one is loose, and that means just getting your concept on paper. And the second one is tight, meaning the layout looks very close to the final ad. We're going to talk about 3 types of layouts. For each layout, we'll talk about who the audience is, why are we doing these type of layouts, and the characteristics of that layout. The first type of layouts are thumbnails. Thumbnails are very loose and they're done for the creative team. This may include the copywriters, the art directors, the graphic designers. There could be junior copywriters, junior graphic designers, the whole creative team. Why are we doing thumbnails for the creative team? The first reason is to be able to store and keep up with your ideas. You can get lots of ideas in a little time. So sometimes you do hundreds of these, hundreds of little thumbnails, sketches, and it's something to build from. The creative team, the art director, copy director, use the thumbnails to talk about their ideas. You can visualize the end results. So as visual people, they can visualize what this is going to look like just based on sketches. These thumbnails are also done for the creative director. The creative director can also visualize what this may look like from sketches. The creative director also have trust in their team, meaning they know that the sketches that the creative team created will be able to be produced. Also, it gives the creative director a chance to provide input in the earlier stages instead of once this particular ad is produced and printed and things of that nature. Here's an example of what thumbnails may look like. So the characteristics of the thumbnails, they're very loose. We already said that. So remember, that's just getting your concept on paper. They roughly indicate the placement of different elements. Once again, you do a lot of these, sometimes 100 or over 100. And then as you can see, they just indicate where your headings will be with the dark squiggly lines, and then your body copy would be the regular squiggly lines. Also, everything are sketches. You don't want to go to the computer for no reason. You start with thumbnails and you sketch out ideals. You do not go straight to the computer. I know you're tempted to do that, but you just putting stuff down on paper. You don't have to be an artist to be able to do sketches. The only thing is they need to be done neatly. The next one is large thumbnails. Once the creative team come up with their ideas, it is time to present them to the creative director. So you're still using thumbnails, you still roughly indicating the placement of elements, but now they're bigger. The creative team presents like 4 to 5 of their best sketches for the ad. The second type of layout are roughs. These are tight at this point. So now we're going from loose to tight. Why are we doing this? Well, this is for the account management team. You want to sell your idea within an agency. And account management usually are not as good at visualizing the final ad as the creative team. And this also allows them to put their input in earlier. Remember, the account management represents the agency to the clients, represents the clients to the agency, and very detailed knowledge of the client's business. So tights are done to finish size. The headline is approximate what you think the typeface may be. So if you're using a serif font, you may not know exactly which font you're using, but you'll use some type of serif font to represent for your rough. The art is tighter, color is added at this point. You have body copy that indicates where it's going to be placed with length and size. This is called Greek or Latin type. It's just dummy text used to aid in the visual of a rough layout. So if you look up Greek text, there are sites you can go to and you can put in like, I want 500 words of Greek text, or I want a certain amount of lines, like 5 lines, things of that nature. And then it'll generate it for you and you can just copy it and paste it there instead of like trying to type up stuff to see how it would look. And the third one are the comps. So these are type 2, but these are for the client. These look very close to the final ad. And the reason why is most clients cannot visualize from a loose layout. And this is referring to a client that is not creative, that might be more on the business side. Of course, if you have a client that is in the creative business, they would be able to see this without having to do a comp. This is the tightest laid out of all the layouts. It looks like it's a finished ad, although it may not be because the client will probably want to make changes. The visuals are drawn by the artist, or photographs are taken and scanned. Copy is set to the size and the typeface. So at this point, you want to have the exact point size and the exact font that you're going to be using. This is very expensive and it's time consuming. So imagine if you had, instead of starting with these thumbnails, you went directly to the computer and created this ad that you had in your mind. And then you start to do testing on it. You're showing it to people, you show it to me, and it's so many changes that you need to make, but you've spent so much time on this ad. And that is why you need to start with thumbnails and hash out your ideas. Sometimes there are times where you have to decide between doing a comp or doing a rough. And this is still for the client. So some of the reasons why you might do a comp versus a rough is tight budgets. Remember, I said comps can be very expensive and time consuming. So if you have a tight budget, you might have to do a rough instead of a comp. So with a comp, you might have to buy the fonts, because remember, you have the exact fonts that you're going to use. With roughs, you just use what font that is similar to the final font. So that's what I mean by tight budgets. You can get away with doing a rough for a client if they have the ability to visualize what the final ad may look like. So like I said earlier, it's the same thing. If you're extending on a current campaign, meaning if you think about a campaign and they all have the same theme, they all have the same layout. So, for example, the Absolute campaign, every single ad has an Absolute bottle and it's Absolute blank. It could be Absolute beautiful, Absolute windy, whatever the case may be. They all have the same layout. So if you were extending on that campaign, adding another ad to that campaign, you wouldn't have to do a comp because we already know what it's going to look like. A rough is fine for the client in this case. Some clients are more likely to change a lot of elements. When you have the same clients over and over, you get to know them. And some clients just like to change things a lot. And if that's the case and you know that, you're more likely to show them a comp. Show them a rough instead of a comp. So now we're going to look at 10 of the most common type of layouts. There are numerous types of layouts that you can do for advertising print ads, but these are the most common layouts.